The lesson I learned here is that sometimes when we betray ourselves, we empty our tanks of compassion and love. I left the session crying. It wasn't a session that I left happy, by the way. I left the session crying, but I finally realized why I was so unhappy. I didn't even realize, guess what? I didn't even realize before the session that I was that unhappy. I just felt that something was off, but I didn't know what it was. And then I realized I'm unhappy, and I realized why I'm so unhappy. I became so connected with myself. I became aware of who Yomna is, It seems that I have lost her at some point on the road, but it was this, like reunion again with myself that coaching helped me with.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Present Potential. I'm your host, Hassan, and I'm so grateful for everyone who has connected, who have listened in, who has tuned in and reached out to listen to our stories and to hear from amazing guests that usually share their wisdom with us graciously. And I'm so grateful for everyone who has been on the podcast and also is on the podcast and will be on the podcast. It's such an amazing medium to be able to have the space for me to learn from their wisdom and also to share it with you. Today, we have a special guest. As always, it's going to be a fascinating discussion. I'm joined today by Yomna Yusuf. Yumna is one of the most amazing coaches that I've come across. She has a lot of wisdom. She's seen how the coaching industry has changed, and she's used her coaching as well to impact others in her own unique way. As always, I probably don't have the best type of descriptions of the guests that I bring into the podcast who have graciously reached out or I've invited. So I'm going to pass it on to Yumna to introduce us to herself. Yumna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Hazan. I'm very humbled by your introduction of me. You threw the hard question back at me, which is introducing myself, something I'm not a master of. I'm Yomna Yusuf. I'm Egyptian. I live in Cairo, Egypt, for now. Um, Originally graduated as a dentist long time ago. I'm not going to mention how many years ago. Have always been looking for my passion. I I changed careers early on after graduation. I worked in the teaching field. I used to be a university instructor for so many years as well. Halfway through the journey, I met my first coach. I didn't know what coaching was. A friend of mine got certified as a coach, needed some volunteer clients to complete her hours, and I happily volunteered to help my friend. Little did I know that I was the one who needed help. So I joined that volunteer session and I did not leave for 2 years. I kept getting coached for 2 years. That really transformed my life 180 degrees. And I knew this is what I was looking for. And this is what I loved about teaching, connecting with people, talking to people, holding space for people, getting curious about people. So I kept looking for the right program to study and started the journey of coaching. And here I am, 8+ years after. I still love it as much as the first day.
Oh, wow. You just sharing that, like I can feel goosebumps in my body about like the transformation and the dedication that you've held within the coaching industry and like the transformation that you went through. Thanks for sharing. And I'd love to begin by, well, you said that you were a dentist. So maybe even before that, um, tell us a little bit about what you wanted to be when you were growing up. Maybe when you were in school and you were aspiring to become something like, because I remember when I was growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to be, and I just kind of stumbled into economics and finance, which I eventually loved but moved out of. So, what is something that really intrigued you, if there was something when you were growing up?
All right, so you're taking me back so many years ago. My parents are dentists. Yeah, that's for the context. I've always been the straight A student. Um, just because I loved studying and because I was very self-competitive. So I never really needed to think about what I want to be because I knew that by the time I graduate high school, all options would be available to me. That was never my worry. So I never, believe it or not, I never paused to think about it until I was already in my last year of high school. And then there were two passions that I was thinking of. One of them is to study Arabic because I was so fascinated by the Arabic language, and I loved my Arabic teacher, and I really loved studying Arabic. So I was fascinated by that. I loved languages in general, Arabic, English, and Spanish. These are the three languages I used to study. So I wanted to study Arabic. The other option was computer science because computers were new. We just had a computer at home, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be a computer engineer. So I was between these two. But then, yeah, growing up in the Arab world, parents are dentists, and they were like, no, you can study that on your free time, but you're going to be a dentist, I was very rebellious, I have to say. And I always had my own thoughts, my own desires, and my own way of doing things. So I said, okay, you're forcing me to be a doctor. Okay, I'm going to be a different type of doctor, but not a dentist, not the type you want. So I joined Faculty of Pharmacy for 1 semester. It was a disaster. I needed to memorize a lot of things, a lot of chemistry, and I have a very bad memory, I have a very short memory. I'm a Nemo in myself. So I decided, okay, this is not for me. I'm not enjoying. So, okay, let me do what they want. Let me make them happy. And then after I graduate, I'm going to do what I want. So I made my parents happy. I studied dentistry. And once I graduated, I resigned. The first day I got my job as a dentist is the same day I resigned.
Oh, wow.
And I went back to the old passion of languages, but this time I studied teaching English for adults. I took a diploma in the American University in Cairo. And once I graduated the diploma, the AUC called me and asked me to go teach with them. And I joined for 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's the American University of Cairo. So
Cairo.
you went from being a rebellion and studying, being rebellious, rather, and studying pharmaceutical instead of dentistry, while both your parents are dentists, and then eventually you went into dentistry. Can you tell us a little bit about like that rebellion that you created, or like what you wanted to follow? There's something that you wanted to do, and I don't know. I'm feeling like there is more there that you wanted to show that maybe you didn't get the chance to.
Yeah, I mean, because I wanted to study something completely different, which is languages or computers. And my parents were like, no, this is a family of doctors. You remain a doctor. I was like, okay, I'm gonna ruin it for you because that's the level of rebellion I had back then. The other thing is I like so much working with my hands. I have so many hobbies as like crafts and art and jewelry making and stuff like that. So dentistry could have been the better option since it's like working with your hands. But again, it was like this is what you want, but this is not what I'm doing. I think it was a stage of my life where when I was experiencing a separate sense of self, but earlier than girls. I'm stereotyping now, but earlier than girls used to experience that back then in my community. So my parents didn't really get what was happening. Like, why is she like that? And for me, it was very normal. Like, I'm an independent self now. Like, I have my own wants and needs. So we had these clashes back then. I had I really gave them a very hard time growing up. But it's something that I reflected on later on when I got into coaching, and I realized is that one of my core values, if not the highest core value, is agency over myself. So I was probably experiencing having this agency over myself, even if I'm going to harm myself and make bad choices, but it was just the agency that I was after.
And so like, yeah, you said you noticed that afterwards when you were going through your own transformation through coaching and realized agency is such an important aspect and a value for you. And then, so you went into pharma, which neither you nor your parents wanted anything to do with pharma, but just to do it. And then you said that you graduated as a dentist and you resigned the first day that you had the job.
Yeah. I was like, okay, here's the certificate of graduation. Here's the job that you wanted, but now I do what I want.
Oh, wow. And how did you feel like when you handed in your resignation? Like what were you feeling or experiencing?
Liberated. I felt liberated. I felt like, oh, finally, I'm now gonna do what I want. And it wasn't easy, by the way, because when I did that, I was married back then. By that time, I resigned, and I remember I got a phone call from my father, threatening me that if I do not take it back, he's not going to talk to me again. And I remember he called my husband back then, and told him like, you married the dentist, she remains a dentist. And I was like, I'm not a sofa here, I'm a person. So it wasn't easy, but the feeling of agency and liberation that I had, and the hope again that I can still have a chance to do what I like, was more powerful than anything else. So I knew that my parents would come around, but life will not come back again. And I'm today, like so many years after, I'm very grateful I did that, because I grew up as a pleaser. Typical straight A student, a pleaser, although I was a rebellious inside. So I had to go through a journey of being okay with upsetting people sometimes, as long as I'm not betraying myself. So I learned the very, very hard way, but I'm glad I learned it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like that, having that courage to really stand up and do the things that you love. Because even me growing up as a man from the Middle East, there are certain types of expectations for certain people to do when they grow up and how to behave and what to do. And I can only imagine what it is for a woman and a young lady as well, deciding what she wants. But it was so clear, like resigning on the first day couldn't have been any more of a clear signal of what you wanted to do. And did you decide that you wanted to resign the first day before you actually went into the first day, or you went in and you said, I'll try it and then see what happens, or was there another reason that?
Yeah, I went the first day with an open heart and mind to try, like, but oh my God, every minute of that day felt like, what am I doing here?
Mm,
This is not my place. This is not what I like. This is not how I want to grow up. This is not what I want to do. Then just leave, just leave. What are you waiting for?
yeah.
Like, you pleased your parents with studying what they want, but are you intending to spend your life pleasing everyone but yourself? Like, I love my parents to death. I respect them. But I want to honor myself as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't go deciding, but the decision happened in the few hours I spent there.
And it sounds like it's like that decision was brewing for a couple of years because you were actually studying to become a dentist. So all of that time you were still experiencing that decision, or what I'm hearing is that it's still that decision was there for years, even before you actually took that decision to resign, which is
Absolutely.
so powerful. Like it's so inspiring to hear people standing up and taking a decision that is so powerful for them. Like that's really what this podcast is about, is finding that present potential, finding the action, the momentum at the moment where you could take to change your life.
Yeah.
And you
But let
said
me
you,
let me share with you, Hassan,
Mhm.
and with the audience, one of the most important lessons I learned from that,
Yeah.
which is something I learned in retrospect. I believe we always learn in retrospect when we reflect on what we went through. Uh, my relationship and my feelings towards my parents drastically changed after I did what I wanted. I had more capacity to love them genuinely, not because I have to, uh, and because I had the agency over myself. So I was like, I genuinely love them, not because I have to please them. The lesson I learned here is that sometimes when we betray ourselves, we empty our tanks of compassion and love. But when we honor ourselves and learn that it's okay to displease sometimes, we have more capacity really to love and show compassion. Uh, Unlike the intuitive thought that, like, you please people because you love them, not necessarily, really. But 1 hour with her, I left the session crying. It wasn't a session that I left happy, by the way. I left the
Uh-huh.
session crying, but I finally realized why I was so unhappy. I didn't even realize, guess what? I didn't even realize before the session that I was that unhappy.
Oh
I
wow.
just felt that something was off, but I didn't know what it was. And then I realized I'm unhappy, and I realized why I'm so unhappy. So I decided, okay, let me continue. This seems like we're onto something here. And 2 years, like, I finished one contract with her, and then I renew and start the next, and so on and so forth. And then I became a complete different person. It was so hard not to notice the changes that happened to me. Everyone around me noticed. I noticed in myself. I became so connected with myself. I became aware of who Yomna is. It seems that I have lost her some at some point on the road, but it was this, you know, like reunion again with myself that coaching helped me with.
That's
Yeah,
powerful. It's so true. So it's once you have that self-compassion and you love yourself truly, then you don't
exactly.
need to show others that you love them in the way that they want. And I can completely resonate with that because I remember when I was growing up, and even my brothers, my father wanted one of us to become a doctor. So he was always telling us, you know, you could be like a, I don't know, a heart surgeon or a dentist or eye doctor, like something in medicine. And my eldest brother wanted to do something else. My second brother actually went into medicine school, uh, did it for 2 years, and then didn't want to do it anymore. But he was doing it for my father. The third one, same, didn't want to do it. And I remember when I had that conversation with my father, he's like, "So, what kind of doctor do you want to be?" That was the question. Already like having like that presupposition that I will become a doctor. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to please him. So he studied economics. So I said, I'll study economics. And he's like, interesting, great choice. But it's like what you shared. It's realizing that the reason he was asking us to become doctors or to take that type of profession is so we don't need to look for jobs, so that we'd have income to support ourselves and our families. Like it came from a place of care. And I only realized this also much later on. Like it was him just caring for us, maybe more than we could comprehend or understand. But it resonates so much what you're saying. And then
Mm.
so you stopped, and then you went and became a teacher in AUC for 13 years, teaching language. And
Mm.
you said English, Arabic, and Spanish. What, why Spanish? What's
Uh, no, I loved English, Arabic, and Spanish growing up because these are the languages I chose to study at school. But when I started teaching at the UC, it was just English for adults. But then later on, when my interest started changing and I started getting this passion about psychology and self-development, I introduced life skills in the School of Continuing Education in the AUC, and I started teaching that and critical thinking and, you know, like these
wow.
soft skills. um, and yeah, just because you asked about Spanish, why Spanish? I don't know. It was new at school. It was offered as a second language to study, and I was the first student to sign up,
Oh
just
wow.
because it's new and I wanted to explore. And I fell in love with it, and I've always had that dream of visiting Latin America because I loved studying Spanish, and I just did last year. This year, actually, I visited Latin America for the first time. So
And
yeah, it's
I'm assuming you speak Spanish or like some sort of Spanish
I
or
forgot it, of course. It's been 26 years since I graduated high school,
just
but
putting you on.
I just brushed it off a little bit for traveling. But yeah,
Wow. And how was that experience of being a teacher? So going from being a dentist and working with one patient at a time and really using your hands as that scale to being in a classroom or a lecture theater and seeing people and people listening to you and sharing your wisdom and knowledge. Like how did you feel about that experience or that shift?
first day in a classroom, well, I was on cloud nine. That was my childhood dream coming true, you know, because I've always wanted to be a teacher of Arabic, you know, like I loved assisting teachers at school. I loved even holding their agendas and, you know, like helping them with stuff and writing on the board. So it was a dream coming true that I am now the teacher. What I liked most about it, as I said, which is something I realized when I reflected on, is really connecting with people, talking to people. And because I used to teach English for adults, so it was mostly communicative English. So we used to communicate a lot, talk about them, their lives, their feelings. And I enjoyed that part so much. Um, uh, Maybe also that's what got me interested when I progressed in my coaching career to become a coach trainer as well, because I get to teach as well. I don't know, I seem to have this innate skill of explaining or simplifying concepts. But if you ask me about my career of teaching, I would divide it into two stages.
Yeah.
The one before I got certified as a coach, and the part after I got certified as a coach. Drastic change. Coaching changed every aspect of my life, including teaching, because I continued teaching for some time after I graduated as a coach. I became more of the teacher who does not transfer knowledge, but more of the teacher who elicits knowledge and ignites curiosity in students to find their own answers. Pretty much like what we do in coaching. And I saw the power of that and the impact of that on the students. I'm still in touch with like the majority of the students I taught after I became a coach, simply because they said like it changed something in the way we think and we handle life, in the way our minds work. You planted this curiosity in us. So yeah, I enjoyed every bit of teaching, and I still enjoy teaching coaches. I mean, it's a passion I have. It's a passion.
Yeah. And that's so interesting that you mentioned how your teaching changed before and after coaching, because there's a huge distinction between teaching and coaching. One of which I didn't know existed before I became certified and started coaching as well. And during that time, so when you were in university, what really piqued your interest or um, really made you feel that you wanted to go into coaching and become certified and to learn this type of profession and skill? What was that thing that helped?
Yeah, it's exactly what I shared when I introduced myself in the beginning. It was a mere coincidence of my friend coming back
Mm.
from abroad, getting certified as a coach, looking for volunteer clients, and I just wanted to help a friend.
That's amazing. And I feel, and I'm hearing as well, like that it's so clear because you had students who saw you before and then the ones who saw you after, and they were giving you immediate feedback of how much knowledge they're consuming because of the way that you're teaching them and incorporating that transformative process that you went through and asking them more than just telling them and forcing them to take in the knowledge. So it's just amazing to become aware of yourself and also to have that feedback from people around you. Um, what was it like the first time that your students said, "Oh wow, like now I really understood this concept," because you've been teaching for a couple of years, so I'm assuming some of the teachings or like the lessons were similar. But what was it like hearing students say, "This is the first time that I've learned it this way," or like their own experience, or how did they notice that it was different?
The thing I always I got feedback on that it was different is uh, that the experience of being in my classroom extended to other areas of their lives beyond the subject matter that I was teaching.
Oh wow.
That was the thing. And that was a consolidation of something I started to believe in when I started studying coaching. When I was in the coach training room receiving the training, I was like, okay, these skills are very interesting. Wow. But it's not just about what I'm learning here. Like I can learn that and can get certified, but does that make me a good coach? Not necessarily. Otherwise, everybody would have been a good coach. So what makes a good coach a good coach? So I realized that it's not the doing, it's not the set of skills that you learn and then you do, and then you're a good coach. It's the being you hold. It's doing your inner work. It's not the shoe selling experience when you give coaching to someone. It's the human connection. It's we work with our core as coaches, right? So I think that core that has transformed, I took it to the classroom. So I didn't really change a lot about my teaching skills. I just added this curiosity and the thought-provoking, spices. But it was the core that I took to classroom that created that change in the way students perceived me and perceived the experience.
That's
Um,
amazing.
you know.
It reminds me, like I wasn't a teacher or I haven't taught anyone to that extent, but it reminds me of sometimes when I also bring the that coaching core and belief and awareness to when I speak to my daughters as well. So a couple of days ago, my daughter was she's 5.5 and she was angry, but I asked her, "How do you know that you're angry?" So she started thinking, I was like, yeah, it's true. How do I know that I'm angry? It's like, maybe you're feeling something else. Okay, so let's establish that you're angry. And then I just kept asking her questions to help her understand, what she feels and what she can do to also regulate her emotions. Because it's so important for me to understand how I can regulate my emotions. And I'm thinking if I can share with them some of the knowledge for them to realize that they have answers within them already. I mean, even as kids, it's such a powerful process. And she notices these things. And then she grows up to becoming more aware of how she's feeling, what she likes, what she doesn't like. So I completely resonate with like how coaching can transform one person, but also the people around them. Because it's in everything that we do. It's that being, like you said,
Yeah.
instead of the doing.
And we have plenty of resources that can tell us how to do things, right? But how often do we get someone who's genuinely curious and interested to know why and
Yeah.
why not,
Yeah.
right? So, and that's a very personal experience. When someone asks you why this is happening, or what makes you feel this way, or why not, what's holding you back, this cannot come from a place other than a place of genuine interest to know your personal experience.
So true.
So this is very unique to the being of the coach, that we are
Mm.
generally, you cannot coach if you're not interested in the person you're coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you cannot coach a client that you don't care about, right?
Exactly.
So this is the elements that we hold in our cores, and we go anywhere with the genuine curiosity and interest about the person. Even because I so much even believe in that concept of it's the why and the why not before the how to. How to is everywhere, like there are
Exactly.
thousands of books about how to, thousands of YouTube videos about how to, but the why and the why not, the personal element here. I even call my business why coaching, because the
Wow.
importance of why. But so yeah, this is what I mean by the core that transforms in the coach. It's the whole being. Yeah.
So true. And I'm curious about like your friend that introduced you to coaching, who was just looking for volunteers to make up the hours. How was your relationship with that friend? You're still in touch or?
14 years later, we're still very good friends. uh, we uh, we played all different roles in each other's life. At one point, she was my coach, and then I coached her when I became a coach. She was my mentor when I got first accredited, and then I kept getting accredited. And at one point, she wanted an accreditation that I was a mentor for, so I became her mentor. We worked together. We trained coaches together. We both got certified as supervisors, coaching supervisors. We are still in touch. She's my go-to when I need coaching. I'm her go-to when she needs coaching. I think this type of connection that was built over the core is something that stayed with us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I mean, it's these connections and the people that we meet along the journey that really transform everything that we do. It's a community as well. Like there, like no man is an island, they say, or like no woman or no being is an island, because we're all interconnected in some way.
Yeah.
And so now you've left your career in AUC, and you mentioned that you've built the business and called it Y Coaching. And it's such an interesting name because like it's the first letter of your name, but it's also
Yep.
what you said, it's the why and why not, and not the how, because you have so many resources to tell you how. So tell us a little bit about your coaching business, the Y Coaching.
Uh, so I started my coaching business after graduation. It was just limited to coaching clients. But then I was reached out to by one of the training providers in Egypt to co-lead the training program with her. And I did that. And it was wow, because it was the two best things I love, teaching and coaching, or training and coaching. And then I moved from one training program to the other. I got certified as a coaching supervisor and mentor. And right now, what I do in Y Coaching is that I coach individuals if they want to. I also work with coaches, certified coaches, mentoring, supervising, providing continuous training. Um, and I'm also the director of membership for one of the coaching accreditation bodies, the Universal Coaching Alliance, uh, because I really believe in coaching, first as a client before anything. And it's very important to me that this industry remains regulated.
Yeah.
So I'm working for the Universal Coaching Alliance as part of paying back to this industry that changed my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what I do now.
Wow, thanks for sharing. And if I can ask you, like throughout your journey from becoming, well, wanting to be, well, I wouldn't say wanting to be, but stumbling upon like a pharmacist, but then not continuing, and then becoming a dentist, and then changing, and a teacher, and then a coach. Uh, who are some of the people that you look up to, or like role models that you really felt that they spoke to you, or you wanted to be like them? Who are
Yeah.
some of those people that?
First, of course, you can imagine as a Middle Eastern, you can imagine the amount of judgments I was surrounded by because I haven't maintained one line of career,
Mm,
right? So I was called irresponsible, I was called unstable, I was called uncommitted, I was called lost, all kinds of things. So the people, the public figures, especially that got me interested to follow their work and like to get inspired by them were those who went through a similar journey, who were looking for passion, changing careers, going sometimes with the flow of life, trusting their intuition, seeing what unfolds. One lady that really impacted me early on was Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. Um, the journey that she went through, the feeling lost with her choices in life, and then going on a long travel to just discover herself, and then going with the flow, trusting life, learning about herself. It was the affirmation that I needed and the validation I needed that I'm not necessarily lost. I'm on a quest. I'm searching. And that's what human beings are here for. We are always on an everlasting, ongoing quest for meaning, for purpose, for passion. So yeah, Elizabeth Gilbert was one. Also Brene Brown later on.
mm.
I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown because of her genuine interest in human beings and the type of questions she asks and the type of areas she digs into. She's one I owe a lot to in raising my emotional intelligence. Um, yeah, these are two examples that come to my mind now.
That's amazing. I watched the movie Eat, Pray, Love. I think, well, if I say how many years ago, I might reveal my age, but a long time ago. And I didn't really understand what it was. I thought it was about like traveling and food. But then I watched it recently, and I saw like the profound shift in the way that we can see the world from our own experiences and the perceptions that we create, and how even love, like love is such a powerful state that we can be in. And these are things that I wouldn't have ever imagined saying in the corporate world, or like in my own environment, or around some some people. So like it was such an eye opener, and I'm so grateful that you shared that as well, and Brene Brown and her teachings as well. They're just so inspiring. Um, and I'm sure that they also go through their journey, because we all have strength and capabilities within us, but it's only when we realize that we are capable of doing more, and having that support system in the community, which you shared as well, like having that friend, and you're still in touch and connecting and
Yeah.
serving and training and doing all the things that you love. And I'm so grateful to have this discussion, because it sounds like you've matched what you're passionately really looking for in what you're doing. Do you miss dentistry, or anything to do with like that career?
I don't miss dentistry whatsoever. I think I never got
Just
a chance to love
wondering.
it. Sometimes I miss being in an actual physical classroom. That I miss sometimes
Mm,
because most of the work we do now is virtual,
yeah.
especially since COVID. Um, and I work with international clients, so I'm 100% online now. So sometimes I miss that physical presence in a classroom among students, but yeah, I mean, it's a matter of choices at the end of the day. So, but yeah, but that's what I miss. But dentistry, no, I don't at
Definitely not.
all.
Wow. Well, usually we have a tradition in the way that we end these podcasts, and we get to ask our guests to share a piece of wisdom or motto, or something that they kept repeating them to themselves, especially like during times of challenge, where they wanted to get motivated or become more strong in that environment or journey that they're going through. What's one of those things that you kept repeating to yourself, or a wisdom or something that you can share with us?
Okay. Not my words, but maybe things that I kept repeating, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Two things. One was something I encountered so many years ago. And first it didn't, like, I was like, what? But then every time I encounter it after, it starts resonating somehow until it became my all-time favorite quote.
Mm.
I do not recall it word for word, but let me. Um,
Yeah, and I usually put people on spot just to
yeah, I'm gonna get it for you now.
challenge the way that they're sharing their stories with us. And
Yeah,
I'm really interested to hear what it is, because just by reflecting with what you
yeah,
shared with us, like that whole journey must have been like there's ups and downs. And also you shared like what people were thinking, or you're changing your career, being irresponsible or so, but you stuck to what you loved. So I'm
yeah.
really interested to hear.
So it's a quote by Marianne Williamson. She says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that's within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others."
Wow, that's beautiful. You don't know it word by word from your heart.
I was reading it.
But yeah, that's such a powerful quote, and thanks for sharing it and reading it with us. Like when you were reading it, I I felt goosebumps in my back, like the way that it really resonates with how we're powerful beyond measure. It's so true. Like there's so much within us that we're still discovering and rediscovering and experiencing and building, and that's such a
Yeah,
powerful one.
thank you. The other one, it belongs to my coach trainer who trained me. Every time I used to tell her, but I am that, she tells me, you are this and much more.
Oh.
Every time I tell her, but I'm introverted, she'll tell me, you are this and much more. I'm shy, you are this and much more. I'm a dentist, you're this and much more. So
Oh
everything
God.
I would say, she would say, you're this and much more. I kept this with me. Every time I feel I'm limiting myself, I tell myself, you're this and much more. When I signed up for your podcasts, I told you, I shared before we started recording, I'm an introvert. Yes, I do teach and I do speak in front of people, but to speak on a podcast is something I've never dared to do because the introvert in me is so intimidated by that. But it just, upon signing up, I said, okay, you're introverted and much more.
Sure. Wow, thank you. And yeah, because like you said, you're an introvert, I would have never imagined that you are, especially being a teacher as well. But you are that and much more.
Yeah. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Yomna. It's been a pleasure having you, and I've learned and gained so many nuggets of wisdom from our short discussion, and really grateful for you to share what you've experienced as well, and being an incredible guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hassan, also for having me and for making it an easy, authentic, enjoyable time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And as always, remember that today is the most important day of your life. Until next time. Thank you for watching and listening to Present Potential. If you found value in this episode, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more. Join the conversation in the comments and let us know your biggest takeaway. If you'd like to listen to other inspiring stories, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Make sure to also follow us on Instagram under Present Potential Podcast, where you get to see behind the scenes and engage with us.